She was out on one of the balconies, and I hoped, not about to be thrown off it. Trashy magazines and pretty trashy people. I just hoped I could keep them out of the crime section. The great thing about being famous as well as rich is the bad guys know who to kidnap. Typical trendy hellhole, a playground for the overpreened and undernourished. Sushi and house music and vodka, a place you don't get through the door unless you're rich, beautiful, or, in this instance, it seemed, a heavily armed psychopath. I remembered there was a patio upstairs. About the only thing I'd managed to clock in that place was the smoking area. Poor bastard's name was Claudio. I found out later he was a pretty big shot soccer player for the Galatians, some nearly superstar just back from Europe. The usual. Scored goals, scored girls. The only box he'd be getting into now was the one he'd be leaving in. It looked loud and expensive enough to be Fabiana's. Her fashion sense didn't leave a whole lot of room for imagination, let alone food. The girl sure knew how to draw the eye, and maybe that was the problem. But at least I was heading in the right direction.
Don't shoot, por favor!
You an American?
Sure. Yeah, I'm from Steele, North Dakota, just outside of Bismarck. Anders Detling. This is some place, huh? They told me it was a little fresh, but I wasn't expecting things to be quite like this.
No?
No, see, I've seen things. I was a cop for 25 years. I've seen men run over by combines. I've seen husbands who just ate their wives, but a gunfight at a disco.
You were a cop?
Yeah, just retired. Oh, what a life that was. And it gave me the money to raise a family. Oh, I got a girl at college in Wisconsin and a boy who's playing football for Minnesota State. You want to see their picture?
No, that's all right. Sounds nice. Listen, you're staying here. Don't be a hero.
Oh, I won't. I'm retired.
Happy, healthy ex-cop? Give me a break. Victor's political campaign was starting to come unstuck. Seemed the Broncos' luck was on the turn. If only that was the worst news they'd received that day. The odds on Giovanna still being alive were getting worse by the second, and if Fabiana wasn't dead already, I was guessing pretty soon she'd start wishing she was. I was up for one god-awful performance review. This was a mess. Where the hell was Passos? We were two failed cops failing miserably at being bodyguards. He approached everything with about as little preparation as I did. Maybe that's why we got along. Time was a luxury I couldn't afford. I didn't know what they were, but this was a nightclub, and I'd never been a picky eater. There was another delay I didn't need. This wasn't looking good. I'd almost lost the boss's wife once this week. Now I was giving them two for the price of one. The one thing I had in common with the clientele of this trendy hellhole, some shared habits. This wasn't the time to be second-guessing myself. I had to hurry or I'd lose them. Mr. Victor Bronco. For all his friends in high places, he had just as many enemies.
Go first. I'm coming. In your own time. It's not like we're in a rush or anything.
Our $3 million man had locked the doors behind him.
Come on, bro. Let's get up there.
Luckily for us, the blood money was still bleeding. The smell in this place reminded me of how long it had been since I'd had any food. A drinker eats when he's loaded. A real drunk eats when he's not.
What are you doing, Mac?
I don't know. Looking for something that ain't here, I guess. Claudio, their golden boy. He'd sure picked the wrong party on the wrong night. Although if the past week was anything to go by, it was safe to assume any party with the Broncos in attendance was the wrong one to be at. Something tells me we're heading in the right direction.
Right on here. I'll cover you.
It suddenly hit me that this bloodbath was probably being recorded in HD. The Galatians would be making more than the sports pages tomorrow morning.
You need to see this.
Let's pick up the pace, Mac. Come on, Mac. Roll. Get your ass in gear, bro.
This old guy, my days of playing dress-up were over. I wasn't some gallant knight. I didn't need a shield. It was hard seeing Brewer go out like that, but I got to thinking, it was what he was waiting for, a chance to make a difference. At least that's what helps me sleep at night. The apartment made me wish I'd got to know him better. It made for interesting reading. If I'd been given a few more years looking into the bottom of a glass, I might have been on the same page. Looked like he was keeping an eye on me. Must have thought we were kindred spirits. More and more, I think he was right. they'd barred the front door. Of course, we were trapped in here. The only way out was through the back, exactly where they wanted us. I'd gotten into my share of bar fights, but that night made me wish for any one of those. It ain't often you get nostalgic for getting your ass kicked by 6 sailors on shore leave.
I ain't waiting to see who else shows up. Come on.
I thought about saying the cops, but this was no time for bad jokes. Up and out. Scramble away from what's left of your life over dead bodies and a few loose roof tiles. If I'd thought things through, I may have sat down and let myself burn right there.
Down to the street. You want a camel coat, bro?
I'm fine with the leather.
There's plenty here, going begging.
This don't show the blood so much.
Looked like Passos had brought us to the right place. That was the chopper the Commando Sombre used to escape the nightclub attack. If Fabiana wasn't around here, then at least someone that knew where she was had to be. I didn't want to think about what would be happening on that video feed now. Just my own imminent cameo. They probably made their ransom notes from the same glossy magazines they used to select their victims. This was a second request for payment. The best of intentions at the stadium weren't enough to cover it. They'd been making a reality show starring Sao Paulo's favorite housewife. Probably thought it would grease the wheels with the ransom money, but it only made me want to shove the cash down their throats. She was on the move. If they'd finally decided to kill her, I wasn't doing anything to persuade them otherwise. It seemed Serrano's boys had targeted the entire Bronco family and didn't give a shit which one they pinched. These were the floor plans to the nightclub. Seemed Mr. Serrano liked to be prepared. Proper little Boy Scout. Serrano was reading his reviews. Vain chump. The newspaper was plastered with the news of the first kidnapping attempt. Serrano had taken Fabiana through the garage door. I had to find a way to open it. I had to keep on going across the docks. Had been run off, paid off, or bumped off. That left us. It wasn't a fantastically comforting thought. That was the office Victor used at Fabricas Branco.
Yes, sir.
I didn't have time to thumb through the old phrase book Portuguese, but it looked like Victor was asking for campaign contributions. Rodrigo held the family purse strings, and by the looks of it, he held them pretty tight. Victor's office had second son written all over it, half the size of... They'd been keeping an eye on Fabiana from afar. Shame they'd been more interested in supposed infidelities than thugs sizing her up for a snatch.
Max, come on!
It was a lot shinier than a favela, and rent'd be easier to collect. Maybe Branco would take pity on all the poor bastards who got evicted. I just had to keep him alive to find out.
I manage security systems, not real security! Shit!
Graduation shots of Rodrigo, Victor, and Marcelo, educated at rich kid finishing schools all over Europe. No wonder they had the common touch. No one would be rebooting his system. Poor bastard. Someone had ordered barbecued gringo, but I didn't have to serve it to them.
Max!
There it went. He was tucked up safe. Now I needed to make it to the lobby to complete my sweep of the building, for what that was worth.
Aí, tem visto a irmã do Wilson, mano? Aí,
O que esse cara quer?
aí, bela camisa, hein? Tu perdeu o fusão, amigo.
Hey, are you lost?
In more ways than I could possibly explain.
I know you. At the disco, with the gun. Yeah, you had hair back then and better clothes. Anders Dudling from Steele, North Dakota. Why on earth are you here?
Well, I'm, looking for someone. What are you doing here?
Oh, we came to help the cause. See, after I retired, my wife, she said I had to do something. And, well, you know, I always loved kids, so I got involved in Angels of the Hill. Oh, it's a great cause, and they're really great folk. And, well, now we come down twice a year to help inoculate the children of the favelas. Yeah, oh, simply wonderful, giving back. Whole family does it. In fact, my little girl's coming in a couple of days.
Aren't you afraid?
I was a cop for 25 years. And granted, Steele ain't San Paulo, but, you know, I seen things. And people are the same everywhere. Good, bad, and different.
Listen, have you heard anything about a woman, about 28, rich? She was kidnapped. I heard she was being held around here.
No.
All right, well, good luck.
All right, you too. You look like you need it. I gotta get back at it. All right, I'll say a prayer for you.
Another life lesson I didn't want. Serrano, the man of the hour. Had De Silva left this there on purpose as some passive-aggressive message to the CS from a cop who was apparently too scared to go near any real criminals? It was a strange power play.
No shooting! Por favor, amigo! No.
Relax, soldier.
You're American? Oh, jeez, buddy. Am I glad to see you? Oh, fuck me. I've been coming to this shithole town for the last 5 years. It's like a fucking insane asylum. But it's got the cheapest pussy in the world. Fuck me. I mean,
You're in a cat house in the slum, pal, doing who knows what.
I'm a businessman, bro. And they were fully legal in this country. I think. And I know how to tip, all right? It ain't my fault, man. It ain't my fault. Don't judge me, all right?
Have a nice day.
Jesus, what a fucking creep. I was getting nowhere fast. The cold turkey was messing with me, like I was looking through another man's eyes. I needed to focus. Yet more thugs whose Christmas card list I wouldn't be on. This wasn't Commando Sombra real estate. I had to keep moving. There was no need to announce my arrival in that part of town. I'd drawn more than enough attention already. Say what you want about these hoods. They knew more about branding than a Madison Avenue art director. Tropa Z. Looked like Nova Esperanza had a civil war to add to its long list of reasons not to visit. Soccer had gotten Claudio away from the favela, but it hadn't gotten him far enough. I couldn't imagine his death had done much to boost the CS's approval ratings in that part of town.
Está com medo, cuzão?
Giovanna, charity worker and socialite. Work with the poor and play with the rich. You try to live in two worlds. Eventually you're gonna get your life ripped apart. Passos had told me about this stuff. Oxidado. They called it rust, packed full of healthy ingredients like quicklime and kerosene, cheaper, stronger, and deadlier than crack. Easily marketed to the poor and desperate. All in all, a fine, honorable way to earn a living. I was definitely in Commando Sombra territory. If Fabiana was still alive, she couldn't be far away. That comforting smell of secondhand beer and exploitation. Detective Valerie Winterson. One of my bullets is buried down there with her. I tell myself it was a tragic misunderstanding, an awful mistake. I tell myself a lot of things. All of it crap. The truth was, it was her or Mona. And I made a very bad call. This was one decision of mine I buried deeper than all the others. Nicole Horn's mausoleum. The woman who ordered Michelle's death. I passed it whenever I came to see my wife. It felt appropriate to leave her some dead bodies instead of flowers. The longer they had us split up, the more chance they had of picking us off. Didn't seem too concerned with meeting their arrest quotas. Between me and Sao Paulo's finest, it'd be a miracle if the CS were still in business by the end of the day. "55. I'd seen that number before. Were these the same bloodthirsty motherfuckers that showed up after the shootout at the party? Man, I was guessing these guys didn't spend their spare time studying the Geneva Convention. I had to get that image of Fabiana out of my head. riding in on a parade float, we couldn't have made our arrival more obvious. We had to hide someplace out of the open. An army of paramilitaries and only my face made the front page. More publicity I didn't need. She was Victor's political nemesis and, in all probability, Sao Paulo's next mayor. Even the Broncos couldn't afford that many votes. Pirates with a manifesto, psychos with a dream, that sort of bullshit. I had a way of making any space my own. The boat was well appointed. This was where Marcelo was supposed to be sleeping. He'd barely come down to this deck. Passos had the name of the bar where I was drinking my life away. I should have put things together then, instead of waiting for De Silva to walk me through it real slow. The room belonged to Passos, my partner in crime. Or maybe someone else's. The bed was made. I could only guess that Passos was upstairs in the thick of it, whatever it was. So this was the famous Panama Canal. We could have gone to the moon while I was passed out and I wouldn't have noticed. While I'd been dead to the world, some of my shipmates were just plain dead. Where had they taken them? Whatever they were looking for appeared to be gone. After I got out of New Jersey, things had flared up again between the Punchinellos and the DeMarcos. Didn't look like things would die down anytime soon. I was gonna have to stay away from the only place I'd ever known. Daphne Bernstein, a recent divorcee making the most of her considerable settlement, and Marcelo was making the most of her. I don't want to think about it. It didn't make sense. Why would they leave the jewels and rip open the walls? It didn't occur to me just what the other cargo on board could be. I blocked out all my questions. All I thought about was getting to Daphne Bernstein before it was too late. Americans had a long and checkered history of involvement in Panama. This was my sorry chapter, for what it's worth. Maybe there was something on the bridge. I checked every other inch of the boat. Either those guys wheeled their trash out on stretchers, or something was seriously wrong here. Fay. Was there anything they didn't have a grubby hand in? A few days earlier, I'd have called it a coincidence, but I'd written off too many of those already. De Silva and I had the same fan club. I knew enough and he knew too much. We'd both become targets. It looked like Victor had won the sympathy vote, found his universal connection to the people, triumph out of tragedy. Part of me couldn't help thinking that had been his plan all along. I hadn't slept in days. I needed something to keep me going. Either Victor, Bronco, and Nevis were doing a lot of charity work together, or this was payment for something else. Were the Crusher Prado in Victor's pocket? Had he tipped them off about the stadium exchange? There had to be something I wasn't seeing.
Hey, yeah, you.
Look who it is, Mr. Strip Club Scumbag.
You.
Yeah, me.
Mr. High and Mighty. Oh, you ain't gonna help me.
Get what you deserve, pal.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable.
They were legal.
Special Forces painkillers. It was Monday's arrest log, as far as I could tell, and no sign of anybody from Nova Esperanza. All those poor bastards have been checked straight into the Imperial Palace Hotel. Becker's blood money from the good doctor. Serrano had canceled one side of that transaction. The other was on me. AUP. Those were the guys who jumped the yacht in Panama. And what was this? Had the Brazilian cops tipped them off about the money? If I didn't hurry, Becker would be long gone. Sao Paulo's own David and Goliath. I'd pinned De Silva as a coward, but he'd risked more than anyone, and he'd never taken a bribe. I'd spent my career dozing off in the briefing room. Now wasn't the time. The CS were all but out of business in Sao Paulo, and suddenly Becker and Victor looked like local heroes in the war on crime. They'd really gotten their money's worth outsourcing their problems onto me. My old pal Serrano. We'd both been unwitting clowns in this sorry circus. Part of me hoped he'd made it out of that hotel alive. I didn't recognize the guy. Maybe this was the new slum king De Silva had talked about. A throne never stays empty for long. Fame at last. It was no great surprise I'd made Ufe's most wanted list. I hadn't done much to improve the reputation of Americans abroad over the past few weeks. And there they were, my illustrious employers. 3 dead and still every chance I'd go 4 for 4. None of this was gonna look good on the resume. And I was in good company. Howell Passos, sent up north to find a washed-up gringo who would act tough and play dumb. Boy, did he ever deliver. It was a little late to be thinking about precautions, but something told me this shit show was barely through the warm-up act. Another dark, rainy night. Another police station. Another futile crusade for amends. Time moves forward, and nothing changes. Every bastard in the joint must have known I was on the loose by now. I couldn't afford to waste any more time. Police food, the same crap the world over. But I could reminisce about the old days later. For now, there was more pressing matters to deal with. They'd come from the control room. It looked like the security cameras were still running. Figured I'd bag those up for evidence. I figured I should check out the security monitors while I had the chance.
Chaos and guns. I might have known you'd turn up.
Sorry. You heading home?
Oh, I am here to pick up my daughter, but I imagine she's stuck on the plane. What are you up to?
I don't know. Trying to make a difference. Giving back.
Yeah, that's what you call it.
Take care.
Yeah.
Judgment with a smile. You can't beat it. Nothing was happening back here. They weren't here. I had to keep moving down through the airport. Sooner or later, I'd have to go out there and see what was happening. It wasn't the time, and I was still a little rusty. But the tune was coming together. Just as this new start of mine was about to come to a shuddering halt. This was the place, if not the time, to play my dirge. It didn't come out right, but I wasn't in much of a state to do anything, apart from kill people. Maybe that's the only thing I'm good for in any circumstance. Booze, coke, pills, you could get whatever party favor you wanted on this vessel. And the band played on. There it was, the soundtrack to my life. And, for a few seconds, came harmony. Finally.
Keep moving.
The people of Sao Paulo lived and died this game. That day more than most.
Você está em uma festa glamourosa e... Opa! Tem uma mancha vermelha na sua camisa. Felizmente, existe. Dissolve. Coloque Dissolve na máquina de lavar e apague os pecados de ontem. Dissolve. Como se nunca tivesse acontecido.
This is INC. A star midfielder for one of Sao Paulo's most famous clubs, Galatians, was killed in a bloody shootout at a local nightclub. A witness who captured this video said there was a fight between gang members and private security forces. It is not yet known whether this was a targeted hit or if the football star was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Also in the attack, Fabiana Branco, the young wife of a prominent local businessman, Rodrigo Branco, was kidnapped. Mr. Branco's brother Victor currently serves as a federal deputy in Sao Paulo and is planning to run for mayor in next year's municipal elections.
A new report by a team of sociologists from the US says the widening wealth gap is leading to a host of unforeseen social and psychological issues for people on both sides of the divide, including both an increase in crime and greater fear of crime, and rise in depression, drugs, and alcohol abuse across all socioeconomic groups.
Meu amor, minha vida, minha Amélia. Meu amor por você cresce a cada dia que essa barriguinha aumenta.
Oh, Lourenço Augusto, meu amor, meu amor.
Ai, Amélia, quando você fala meu nome assim, eu me derreto de amor.
Ah, meu amor, meu amor.
Meu Deus, Marina!
Lourenço Augusto, não posso mais viver mentindo pra gente mesmo. Lourenço Augusto, quem é essa biscate?
Eu me entrego todo pro amor dela. Me entrego pra Marina, ela é minha vida. O corpinho dela é um violão e desculpa, Amélia, mas eu caí no encanto dela. Eu amo ela e não mais você.
É verdade. Esse corpinho lindo, cheio de curvas, tá esperando por ele. E outra, eu não sou caída, flácida e cheia de celulite que nem você, sua biscate.
O que foi que você disse, sua quenga? Você não é uma dama.
Sou sim. Sou uma dama na cama com seu marido, uma meretriz.
Sua vagabunda! Eu vou acabar com você!
Ah! Morre, sua vaca!
Au!
Não, não! Separa, não, solta! Não!
Perua! Ai! Puta! Ai! 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 Eu vou dar a luz, eu vou dar a luz! Meu nenê, Lourenço! Lourenço Augusto, meu nenê!
Ai, meu Deus!
Eita, pô! Esse aí não é meu filho!
Meu Deus! Meu neném é um curupira!
Adventures of Captain Baseball Bat Boy, episode 203. We join our hero on a date at the arcade with Bicycle Helmet Girl.
Yeah, we're not on a date.
We join our hero on a top-secret training mission.
That's more like it.
When, in the blink of an eye, the trickster Sassy appears and grabs Bicycle Helmet Girl.
Help me, Baseball Bat Boy!
I'll save you. Base is loaded. Here's the windup and the pitch.
Then, suddenly, the trickster Saucy presents his latest evil trick, a devilish aging ray.
Oh, no, Triple B. Don't get unnaturally old before your time. Don't worry, Bicycle Helmet Girl. I'll never get old.
Oh, drat. I got old.
Hit a grand slam and save me, Triple B.
Oh, gee willikers.
How will our hero hit a home run when he can't even run the bases anymore? What will he do next? Find out in the next episode of The Adventures of Captain Baseball Bat Boy.
Hippos get hungry in the middle of the night. Good thing Hippo's Hamburgers is open 24 hours. Try the Hippo Family Pack. Keep those little hippos fat.
A dor. Com a idade vem a dor. É dor de cabeça, dor de estômago, dor na virilha, dor nas juntas, dor de ressaca. É por isso que existe Interfectum. Interfectum é um analgésico forte para a dor forte.
This is INC.
We have reports of more violence erupting in Panama, where citizens are still reeling from this attack 2 months ago. Colombian paramilitary group United Souls of the People, or AUP, have been waging a campaign of violence and terror in the area around Bastidas, despite government attempts to stabilize the region. Staying in Latin America, an explosion of violence in Brazil's largest city, Sao Paulo, as much publicized initiatives to stop feuding between favela gangs and the police have completely failed. Some local activists blame much of the city's problems on the activities of right-wing groups Cracha Preto and Nova Garda, who they accuse of vigilante-style attacks in the areas of the city where police have lost control. Some human rights organizations report a slew of missing persons in the city, a topic that many observers say local law enforcement isn't taking seriously. This turmoil is shaping up to be a hot topic in next year's mayoral election. Right-wing candidate Victor Branco was once a frontrunner, but is now falling behind in the polls. Well, there may be some political storm clouds out there, but the sun is shining in many regions today. Over to Marisol with the weather.
Here we go again. Something for the cold?
After police shut down the Madam of the Dangerous Liaison's prostitution ring. An update on Monday's brutal mafia killings in Hoboken. Investigators now believe the shootings were related to the murder earlier that evening of Tony DeMarco Jr., son of suspected mob boss Anthony DeMarco. DeMarco Jr. was shot after a fight broke out in Walton's bar. Initial theories this was part of an ongoing turf war between the DeMarco and Punchinello crime families have now been rejected. Police are calling it the worst night of violence in the tri-state area in 9 years. Should you travel outside of the United States to get cheaper medication? Our report up next.
I got serious problems.
O que você quer?
Olá, sou o Dr. Arthur Fischer. Sou especializado no aumento de nádegas, seios, abdominoplastia e aumento peniano. Faça-me uma visita. Dr. Arthur Fischer, cirurgião plástico e procedimentos.
O ataque na sede da empresa do ramo de construção Fábricas Branco no início dessa semana foi atribuído ao grupo paramilitar Crachá Preto. O presidente da empresa, Rodrigo Branco, irmão mais velho do candidato a prefeito Vitor Branco, foi morto durante o ataque. Ainda não se tem certeza se o crime tem alguma ligação com o sequestro da senhora Branco, Fabiana, pelos membros de uma gangue de favela na semana passada em um clube noturno. A senhora Branco ainda não foi encontrada. A polícia está buscando mais informações a respeito deste homem, cuja imagem foi capturada pelas câmeras de segurança do edifício em chamas. A seguir, mais notícias.
É lindo, irresistível. Você sempre quer mais. Bang! O refrigerante com guaraná que te dá energia. Bang! Você vai ver estrelas.
Come on, let's get the hell away from here. Go on, it's okay. I'm right behind you.
As aventuras do Captain Baseball Bat Boy. Episódio 204. Nosso herói idoso encontrou o esconderijo do Saci, onde ele mantém sua namorada, Bicycle Helmet Girl, como refém.
Ela não é minha namorada.
Me ajuda, me ajuda! Me ajuda, Captain Baseball Bad Boy! Mesmo sendo um velho rabugento que ainda usa roupas de jovem.
Mas quase ele não consegue levantar o taco, quando de repente ele tem uma ideia brilhante.
Eu tô velho demais pra usar esse taco. Tá na hora de trocar por algo que um velho usaria.
Captain Baseball Bad Boy sacou o seu melhor taco de golfe.
Acorda! Acorda!
Eu ganhei, filha da puta!
Eu te amo, Captain Baseball Bad Boy!
Eca!
Assista ao próximo episódio para ver as incríveis aventuras do Captain Baseball Bad Boy.
With little hope that things will improve in the next 18 months.
A report by human rights organizations documents evidence that up to 200 residents have gone missing from Sao Paulo's low-income neighborhoods in the past 3 months, an issue which they say is being ignored by both police and city officials. More Latin American news after this.
Hotel Mona.
An unforgettable place to stay.
I must be losing it.
O seu dinheiro representa o seu futuro. Mantenha-o seguro com o Banco Boitatá. Para sua casa, o seu carro ou o seu negócio. Venha falar com o Boitatá.
Threatens to be the worst volcanic eruption in Ecuador for 40 years.
The epidemic of violence that grips Brazil's major cities continues to worsen. On Monday, a massive gun battle between drug gangs and special forces police in the favela of Nova Esperança left 150 people dead or critically injured. Mayoral candidates were divided on the reactions to the altercation. Camila Machado blamed the police force for acting without restraint and effective government oversight. Victor Branco, whose eldest brother was murdered last week and whose youngest brother is missing and is feared to have been an innocent victim in Monday's gun battle, issued a statement calling for more funding for law enforcement and vowing to stop at nothing to make Sao Paulo safe again. In Buenos Aires, the world's largest chorizo caused quite a stir.
I'd seen enough. It was time to bring this nightmare to an end.